everyone. So I really felt the need to do this impromptu video, um, mostly just because I could not resist the opportunity to do video in this absolutely sexy voice that I have at the moment. Clearly I'm sick, hence why my face is red, and I have a giant pimple on my chin, and I sound like a man. My voice has actually gotten worse in the last like 3 hours, so pardon the voice. My makeup is melting off my face. I just I just don't care at the moment, but I felt the need to do this video very impromptu, mostly just because I wanted to have a conversation. I wanted to have this conversation and see if anybody out there was feeling the same way I've been feeling about what it feels like to be a young adult trying to find a job in 2016. I currently live in Toronto, and Toronto's not a cheap city by any means to live in. I am very lucky that I still live at home with my mother, and I'm so lucky and so grateful to have her and to have such a loving parent in my life that hasn't kicked me out and that takes care of me. I'm so lucky for that. Um, I do have to clarify that I do pay my own bills and I do pay for all that. So it's not like she pays for everything. I do pay for all my own things, but I have a place to live and I don't have to be concerned about that, which I'm very lucky for. But I graduated from school about, I think, 2.5 years ago now, or 3 years ago now. It's in that ballpark range. And since I graduated, I had the dream of I had this dream, and I had a plan. I was going to graduate. I was going to either, at the job that I had at the time, it was going to turn into a full-time job. I was going to get paid more, or I'd find another part-time job, and I was going to be able to work both jobs and make enough money to pay off school, pay off my debt, move out, and take care of myself. Um, then the crashing reality hit that none of that was going to happen. Um, I had a job for about almost 5 years that I worked at, and I absolutely learned to hate it. I didn't like it. I have talked about it a lot on my channel before. I learned a lot from that job. I just can't do retail anymore. I have outgrown the position. I don't feel like a lot of the retail positions out there are really where I can fulfill a lot of my skills, which is really teaching people. And I just don't feel like the skills and the experience that I have would be valued in most general retail environments. Most places are looking to hire high school students or, young people who aren't looking to be paid more than, $16 an hour. Most places won't pay you that. Generally, most jobs I have found won't pay you that, which is really unfortunate, because that basically makes it absolutely impossible to move out, to pay debt, to live any sort of normal living life in this city. I can't move out because I can't afford to. I can't afford to move out and pay off my debt at the same time. I can't afford to pay off my school debt and then pay off my bills and survive and live on a regular basis. And I don't live an extravagant life by any means. I rarely go shopping, and when I do, it's like every 5 to 6 months. I don't go out really all that often. I don't go partying or clubbing every weekend. It's, first of all, not really my thing, and it's too expensive to do that. I don't party, I don't drink all that much. All I basically do is if I'm working, then I work. I go to the gym if I'm not sick. And that's about it, and spend time with my loved ones. That's about all that I do. And that is basically what I can afford to do. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied. I think it's just my frustration seeping out of me. And my head cold. I don't know if anybody else has experienced just how difficult it is to find a job, and I've talked about this before on my channel as well, but it is so incredibly difficult to find a stable working environment. I have, for the last year and a half, which I'm not complaining, it's definitely given me the chance to experience a lot of different working environments and experience a lot of things that I have learned to like and a lot of things that I've learned to dislike. But a lot of places are only willing to hire you contract job or willing to give you contract jobs, which will only last anywhere from 3 months to about 6 to 8 months, and if you're lucky, for maybe a year. And that's not even guaranteed. And that's not even necessarily full-time, which is even more frustrating. It is so difficult to find a stable work environment or anywhere that is willing to pay you more than minimum wage, which is also really frustrating because I'm spending anywhere from 35 hours to 40 hours of my week at your company or at your business or whatever, wherever I'm working at, but yet nobody's willing to pay me more than $12 an hour, and I'm spending almost 40 hours of my week there, and that's not enough money, and that's not enough hours, or that's basically I'm not able to make enough to still sustain myself, whether it's paying rent, whether it's paying bills, whether it's buying food, whether it's not even to factor in time to or money to go spend for fun. We're talking just money to be able to afford basic costs of living for things. I don't know if anybody else has experienced this. It sure is tough. I wasn't born and I didn't grow up in a household where I had a silver spoon up my ass. Nothing was ever given to me. I grew up in a fairly unstable living environment. I went to school, I went to university, and yet I am right now in a position where I am in debt from school. I have yet to be able to pay off my school debt, which is just it's so crushing to admit, but it's just the reality, and I know I'm not the only one, but it's just unfortunately my reality at this time of my life. I thought by now I would have school paid off. I thought by now I'd be moved out. I thought by now I would have a somewhat stable job, or at least be working for a company that I really enjoyed, a job that I was passionate about. And I want to just throw out there that I have applied to anything and everything I could find, or anything and everything I could at least sit down in front of somebody and convince them that I could do. I have applied to receptionist positions. I have applied to bartending positions. I have applied, again, to anything and everything you can think of that I could convince somebody that I could do, or at least that I could think I do, if that makes sense. I don't know if that made sense, but my brain's not totally functioning right now. I'm just rambling and / ranting at the moment. It is just I just had my birthday last week, and being where I am right now is not exactly obviously where I plan to be, and I think it's definitely demoralizing to be a Canadian in 2016 and not have a full-time job, not being able to make enough to support myself, and to be in the position where instead of being able to support my parent and help her out, she is doing quite the opposite and still supporting me, which is just absolutely devastating to my self-esteem, and personally, it doesn't sit well with me. I am not somebody that feels comfortable living off my parent. And I also want to make it very clear that I am somebody that is not lazy. I have worked 2 to 3 jobs at a time. I have done everything I can. I've done everything I could in the last year and a half, since I quit that one job that I had for a very long time that I absolutely hated, and really I wasn't going anywhere with that job. I was barely making any money, even though it was stable, kind of. It really didn't, it was not a healthy environment for me to work in. So I had to give it up for my own sanity. But with the consequences of that, it's put me in a position where I now have been bouncing from job to job, which again has been interesting. I've experienced a lot of jobs that I've kind of always wanted to experience. But at the same time, being in a unstable environment currently is stressful. It's very, it causes me a lot of anxiety. It makes me feel shitty about myself because I can't afford to take care of myself. And I can't afford to pay rent. I can't afford to pay for my debt. I can't afford to pay for my bills. And I guess what's prompted this video mostly is the fact that my contract has just ended today for the job that I just had for the last 2.5 months, so not even that long. And my contract ended early, and B, I was not prepared for that. But it's just, that's how unpredictable this world is, unfortunately. Has anybody else experienced this in the last year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Has anybody ever experienced this in their lifetime? I would really appreciate some motivation or some just advice, in the comment section down below. I don't feel like I'm the only one who has experienced this recently or in the last couple of years. I think this is something that's been going on for a really long time. I feel like I still have flashbacks to it was, I think, about a year ago, same time last year. I'd gone to an interview that I think the woman was expecting about 60 people at max, and that was max, and well over almost, I think, 200 people showed up for the interview. So I think that just gives you an idea of how shitty the economy, as far as the job market goes, for people in Toronto is right now. And it doesn't seem like it's getting any better, which is scary. I had a very real conversation with my mother, and I've had some real conversations with some, I guess, older adults in the last couple of weeks that have been really sad and terrifying, that in my lifetime, I'm probably not going to be able to afford to buy a home. I'm not going to be able to afford to buy a house in my lifetime, which is terrifying. If you had, going into university, had I known had I had a dose of the real world, I probably wouldn't have gone to university, solely for the fact that I wouldn't be in so much debt just from school alone, and that I could have had that money, or at least I could have had a clean slate to put a down payment on, or save some money, travel, just not have that debt on my shoulders currently. Do I regret going to school? I mean, for the experience, solely, absolutely not. It was an amazing experience. But for the debt factor, for the reality of my situation right now, probably not. I probably wouldn't have gone to school. Excuse me. But for the fact that I won't be able to buy a house in my lifetime is such a real situation, and is such a real statement right now, and it's so depressing. I'm not going to be able to buy a house in my lifetime. Unless I win the lottery, I find a jackpot career, or I marry somebody that can afford to support me and themselves and be able to save money to purchase a home. And I want to make it very clear, I have never been the type of person to be comfortable to be supported by somebody else. I'm not that type of a girl I've never been comfortable with being in a relationship or being in a situation where I'm taken care of by somebody else, aside obviously from my mother. But like, as far as relationships go, or having external help, even friends and stuff, I've never been comfortable with the thought of having somebody else support me financially or with other things. It's not something I've ever been comfortable with, and it's not something I have ever just, it's crossed my mind, sure, out of desperation, but I still, to this day, I just, something, it's just the type of person I am. I would rather, work whatever job I could find, desperately, whatever hours I could get, to be able to pay off my own bills and debt and all that and take care of myself, than to ask for help. And I know those of you who are close to me know that I am very stubborn to ask for, I'm not the type of person to ask for help, because I just don't like admitting that I'm in a moment of weakness. Even when I'm in a moment of desperation and weakness. But it's just, I've never been in the situation where I have, felt like I've had to ask for help so desperately. I don't even know where I was going with that thought. Honestly, it's just, this shit sucks. I really wish I could have a job right now. I really wish I could have a job that I loved. I really wish I could work for a company that I was passionate about and that I loved. I really wish there were more jobs out there for people who are creative, who love working with their hands, that where it's stable and it's not, it's not either freelance or that it's just super unstable where it's only a couple months contract. I really wish I could find a company that really understood that I am, once I find something to be passionate about, whether, if I just wholeheartedly agree with what you're doing, what you're producing, what you stand for, I am there 100%. I'm willing to bend over backwards. I will work so hard to prove to everybody that your company is what it is, that it is the best of the best, especially if it is the best of the best. I feel very discouraged, and I feel very disappointed with the fact that I have spent the last almost 2 years now really applying to anything and everything, and either getting no responses, no phone calls, no emails, being rejected. And being rejected, I am used to. It is something that comes with kind of this world again. Rejection isn't something I fear, and busting my ass to just simply apply to jobs, I will never stop doing. But I am very disappointed with the fact that the job market still is this shitty, and the fact that there aren't more opportunities for people to, find just stable jobs. And it sucks. It really does suck. I hope that somebody out there, we can start an interesting conversation, at least in the comment section down below, and maybe some of you can vent your grief and your stress and your anxiety to me about how you're feeling about the lack of a job market, the lack of stability, and the lack of being able to just simply live. And it's not like anything is getting any cheaper, which is horrifying to think about what it's going to be like in 30 years. And I don't even want to think about what it's going to be like in the next 5 years, more or less 30 years. So for any of you who are feeling this way, join me in the comment section down below, and maybe we can make each other feel better about the shitty situation that we're in. Maybe somebody out there has some suggestions, and yeah, that'd be great. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and I'll talk to you guys soon.